Welcome to another episode of the apex Perspective podcast. Today I have with me Arvin Murali, who is currently the Senior Vice President of Data and AI Competency at iOPEX Technologies. Now, Arvin, can you tell me a little bit more about your background and why you chose this career path?
Aryan, thank you for inviting me over to the apex Perspective. Really appreciate it. So I've been in this field for over 20 years and, they usually call me the data guy, meaning I've been in the data space as an analyst. That's how I started my career, moved into the world of data warehouse. All along, I was always good with the numbers. I was always interested in what the data says. Meaning, there's this context of truth and meaning. My friend Scott Taylor talks about it a lot. So the idea is in large enterprises, truth basically means that what your data talks about your company, about your customers, about your sales, about your marketing, you can't change that. The meaning could be interpreted as human ingenuity is very smart. There's a saying that says, if you already know the answer, you can go find the data and the evidence that supports it. We're always biased towards a certain answer. That's how humans are built, right? So then 3 years ago, because I'm naturally curious and I'm always inquisitive about what the data says, the truth, right? AI was a very logical transition to me. Now, the big difference, though, is that AI does not have any bias. I mean, inherent biases, right? So what AI says, it says what the data believes in, okay? So sometimes there are some nasty things that comes out of AI's analysis, unlike a human who could possibly hide the analysis outcome.
Of course.
So that's when I became more and more curious, and I started working on how AI can change the game. So this is how my career started. Here I am. You can call me an AI strategist, if you will. I don't get so much weeds, the daily, tactical coding and stuff, but I do understand client problems, and I do have a team to solve it.
Excellent. So before we backtrack and learn more about your background, I am curious about how you're involving AI with specifically data. Now, I actually spoke to a technical executive very recently on one of the topics we discussed about is how AI is interpreting data for companies and creating different meanings and interpretations of data, as this was a company dealing in multiple markets, and certain data means different things in different markets. So for you, how's AI being leveraged in particularly with data?
Yeah, so 15 years ago, a big company called Andreessen Horowitz made a statement: software is eating the world. What that means is that was the age of software like ERP and CRMs and HRMS. They were slowly but surely eating the human ingenuity, right? Today, the same statement could be made as AI is eating the world, okay? So thousands of companies are being killed. Big SaaS companies are being threatened because with AI, you can build anything. Imagination is the only bottleneck, right? So if you have that, you can build whatever you want. Technology is no longer a constraint, okay? AI is changing that game. So now what's happening is this AI has evolved into two main areas of focus. So I call it the vertical AI and the horizontal AI. Vertical AI are industry-specific business workflows that basically solves a particular problem. Imagine you're a manufacturing company, okay? And your biggest bottleneck is manufacturing, which means you got these big factories with big robots which are building cars, as an example. What's the biggest problem? Parts, right? If you don't have enough parts, you can't build enough cars. And if you don't have enough cars, you don't have enough sales, right? So long time ago, parts used to be a very manual process, right? Today, those parts are solved by agentic AI. So it will automatically figure out based on vision technology whether your manufacturing units have enough parts. How does it do that? With shelves. These parts are placed on shelves, and if those shelves don't have enough parts, it'll automatically talk to another agent and say, hey, I need more tires. Can you please go order more tires? And then another agent will order more tires from a tire company. And that tire company will have an agent that talks to a manufacturing company, a car production company, and says, oops, you need 100 tires in this location? I can do it tomorrow. Is that okay? Now, these agents are talking to each other instead of this taking 3 to 4 weeks of interactions. Okay, that's what I call as vertical agents.
And
go ahead.
Please go ahead. You're going to finish. Go ahead.
No, so these are very industry specific workflow specific things. Then you have something called horizontal agent. But before I do that, you had a question for me on the vertical agent.
Well, you can just see from this one particular example that this is something that can be implemented across multiple industries specifically. Now, the question for you is, what about sensitive industries like healthcare? Because there could be potential specific requirements of having an actual medical assistant having insight on this process. So how does that process work in sensitive industries?
Fantastic question. So regulatory industries like banking, financial services, healthcare, these are a little bit slower, and rightfully so, to move with AI, because you got to be really careful. You don't want your patient data or your provider data to be leaked, or
Certainly.
you don't want some agent to give incorrect information. Hey, Aryan is sick. Give him 10,000 milligrams of Tylenol. It'll do that confidently. So what AI is really good at is it can lie confidently to make you believe that is the right answer.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so you got to be extra careful in launching these kind of agents in a very regulatory environment. That's why you see government has significantly improved the number of laws and regulatory compliance for AI this year more than any other year in the history of mankind.
Yes.
So, and it's only going to get more and more. So yes, you're right. We have to be doubly careful, but you can also not stop the evolution, right?
Mm-hmm.
This is one of the, if not the greatest, this is one of the greatest inventions of mankind. So
Right.
I don't think there's any stopping. I think we just have to pause and think before we launch an AI in production.
Absolutely. And then as far as these more sensitive industries, you see there's more checkpoints with AI agents, or what do you think is going to be the best way to implement them in sensitive industries?
There is a term called guardrails we use in AI, right? And guardrails means policies that are put in place so that AI doesn't become a bad actor. Okay. So there are many, many guardrails. For example, like I said, protecting patient privacy. This is a very, very important thing in healthcare, right? And then constantly monitoring health results. Like if I give you medicine A, is Aryan reacting to it? Is he not? Is he getting better? Is he getting worse? These are constant checkpoints. I work with you. And these days, there are so many ways to check your vitals, right? I have my watch. I have my ring. I have all these devices, which is constantly collecting data about me, my breathing, my heart rate, my walking, my this, my that, even sugar and cholesterol levels. Every second or every minute is being tracked. So this is constantly fed to AI to track the patient's response, right? And accordingly, a doctor will constantly monitor high-risk patients. If you're low risk, that's okay. You're not going to go to the doctor anyway as much. But if you're type 2 diabetes or something that's a little bit more sensitive, you always need to have human in the loop, which is your doctor or your nurse caring for the patient.
Of course. Now, you were talking about the vertical application of AI, and then you were talking about the horizontal subsequently, and that's where you'd stop. So go ahead, please tell me about that.
The second type of AI is called horizontal AI. Now, 20 years ago, when I started my career, for me to build what they call as a data warehouse, it was a 3-year, 200 people project. 3 years. You know how long it takes to build a data warehouse today?
No, but I think I did see a news article recently that they're trying to build as many of these as possible. There's one company that offered 26 million to turn a farmhouse into a data center, and they couldn't even do that. It's worth a lot of money, for sure.
Today, a warehouse could be built in 4 weeks. 20 years ago, that was 3 years, 200 people. Today, it's 4 weeks, 5 people.
Wow.
Okay, and you know why?
What changed?
Agents are complementing humans. So
really?
I want to now spin up a new server. I just call an agent will spin it up for me. I want to build a brand new data model. I call an agent will do it for me. So now think of a human more as a supervisor. I tell these bunch of agents what to do. They'll do the work and they'll come back to me and say, boss, the work is done. Am I good to go? Should I do the next piece, the next piece, the next piece? So humans are becoming more orchestrators in these horizontal agents, right? Where essentially your job is to instruct the agent, create a database, create a data model, populate some data in it, run some test cases in it. These are all IT work that used to take days and weeks together. Now it takes hours, if not minutes.
Wow.
So these
Yeah.
agents are my assistants, my co-pilots, if you will, right? These are called horizontal agents. They're not industry centric. I can apply this agent for healthcare, for banking, for manufacturing, for retail. It doesn't matter.
Mhm.
Okay. So that's what I did 5 years ago when I started getting into this space. A
Right.
lot of these
So
horizontal agents. Yeah.
absolutely. So now we're going to backtrack a little bit because I did want to get into this. In terms of your background, I know you started off in, from what I was seeing here, is a data warehouse consultant. Before that, I think you had the choice to narrow down data as a focus in your career. What was that decision-making process for you?
Like I said, I'm always interested in what the data says.
Mhm.
At that time it was more Excel spreadsheets. Now it's more agents, right? That's the only difference. But if you're curious to learn more about the world, like if, for example, if you go to whitehouse.gov, you have more than 4,000 data sets about weather, about cigarette smoking, about cancer, about traffic, about so many data sets that you don't think about in your everyday life, but it's
Mhm.
there, right? How much money are people spending on groceries? All of this data is there in White House. What if I take all, some of those most interesting data sets and I start building an app
Mhm.
and I make a lot of noise in social media? All of a sudden, you become what? You become OpenClaw,
Mhm. It's
right?
based on truth. Data is based on truth and how people act and how people are true, their true behaviors. And I think measuring and understanding true behaviors is
That's it.
completely different than asking, right? Because a lot of founders, successful founders I've had on this podcast, they do ask people questions, their ideal customers, about what they prefer. But it's another thing to track their behavior, right? The data behind what they actually do. Because sometimes people say they want something, but they act differently. So
Yeah.
that is a really big point. Go ahead.
I'll give you a simple example, right? I can tell you, Aryan, I go to gym 7 days a week, an hour and 10 minutes every single day, right? But the
Mhm.
reality is my Garmin watch and my Aura ring, if they don't have that data that I just told you, I'm lying to you, right?
Right,
So
right.
this is data. What I'm telling you is my perception, right? Or I'm trying to show you something that I may or may not be, right?
Mhm.
So what I'm saying is track the data. You have access to it. Track your data,
Yeah,
right?
and that's really how you learn. That's how you learn more about the world, I think, and that's how you learn about read the true behavior of people. I'll even say that one example is data centers are going to be a massive, very, 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 very much in demand to create very in the coming years. We just saw an institution offer 26 million to turn 26 million to turn a farmhouse into a data center. This is how much it is in demand. But tracking that as data would tell you the truth, and there's actual business opportunity there as opposed
Yeah,
to just thinking and potentially talking, right? So that's a
yeah.
really good point you made there. I did want to go back to agentic AI specifically, and on the topic of deploying agentic AI at scale, one of the risks you can see happen is cybersecurity attacks, because the true scale of agentic AI and the way it behaves at scale can make it more prone to or vulnerable to attacks. So what is your perspective on that, and how should companies be implementing AI with that, or agentic AI with that?
So 3 years ago, a credit card company came into the news when they exposed all of their credit card holders. Some rogue agent running within their organization was exposed to a public API endpoint, and somebody called it, and they had leaked about, I don't know, go look at the news, like 4 million credit card customer information or some big number, right? They were sued for millions of dollars. The reason I bring that up is because that company saw the shiny object in agentic AI and they built something, not understanding the security risks or not thinking about the security risk, because at that time agents were all brand new. It was literally a shiny new toy. There were not many production instances you can learn from, right?
Hmm. Yeah.
So that happened 3 years ago. Even today, agents, the biggest risk that many pundits, many researchers that are talking about out there, right, is that they're,
Hmm.
as humans, we still don't know how these large language models are responding to you. If you go to
Hmm.
ChatGPT today and ask a question, it'll give you an answer, right? But nobody knows how it came up with that answer. How? What's the reason behind? What's the data? It's not data. right? It's stitching 18,000 different points and just coming up with an answer.
Yeah.
It's called tokenization, right? It's predicting words, what comes out, word 1, word 2, word 3. It's stringing a bunch of words and it's coming up with an answer. That's risky in organizations. It's okay in ChatGPT because you and I are just normal people. But when you talk about several billion-dollar company, that's risk. You can't afford to have LLMs give answers or have an open endpoint that somebody can hack into. So cybersecurity is increasingly becoming a threat, a risk, and a very important function in large enterprises. And people are paying so much money to kind of hold on cybersecurity. Absolutely.
Yeah. So what I would like to do now is actually shift this conversation to a little bit more about you, Arvin. And the first question I have for you is, what is something about you or about your life that you wish more people knew about?
What is something I wish to do what more of?
What is something about your life that you wish more people knew about?
I'm a boxer. Indian people don't usually do boxing, so that's something that a lot of people don't trust. I'm 6'3", so I'm a tall guy. I've been that for years. I do have my own gym back in India as well. I've trained a lot of people, and now I have a master who's running the gym, and he's training quite a few people as well. I'm proud to say that whatever you do, have some sort of a sport in your life. Doesn't matter how old you are, right? I think that improves your not just your physical ability, but also your mental ability, right? Today I go to gym, workout an hour a day, at least 3-4 days a week, and I think that gives me clarity, right? Of course, I'd love to say I want to continue boxing, but shoulders gave up, so there's an age factor there as well. But that I would say health is very, very important.
When did you start boxing?
A long time ago.
Okay. Was this when you're in your college years, or what? Tell me when you joined and why.
I was just a little thing about me. I was very aggressive when I was young. I was always a very angry dude. So somebody told me boxing will reduce your anger. Just go, punch everything that you want in your bag. That's how I started. And then I fell in love with it. I continued to box. Then I continued to coach. Then at a certain point in my life, I wanted to own a gym. And I couldn't do it here in the US. So I started a gym in India. And then somehow it turned into this thing of, hey, I don't want people to pay for it, especially the underserved community. So I started going after these, rickshaw drivers and their sons and daughters, and started offering them free boxing classes, right? You don't need to pay anything. Just don't smoke and drink and waste your life. Just come to my gym, work out for 2 hours. Somehow they fell in love with it, and 2 hours became 4 hours. And they would come at 7 in the morning. They would just stay on till lunchtime. They won't box the entire time, but they just hang out, go have fun, and just not smoke and not drink and not do those bad things. Somehow they became fit. 6 to 8 months later, they started applying for police job. I'm proud to say at least 25 kids out of my gym became police officers, inspectors, constables. And one of them went to nationals.
Yeah. And we were talking before about this topic, and I think it's really important that people who have obsessive and addictive tendencies, when they get to replace it with good alternatives, they become a lot more effective. And I can speak a testament to this, because I would say addictiveness, and I would say being obsessed and being addictive is a really big part of my personality. That's the reason I became obese, 245 pounds. It's the same reason I lost a bunch of weight and I got my life together, I would say. So it's a very interesting thing you're doing, is opportunity to basically do a replacement of those activities. So I really can appreciate that. Now, the other question for you is, what would you say is the biggest similarity you've seen between life and boxing?
I think I wouldn't say similarity. I would say what changed in my perspective of life when I started boxing, right? I would put it that way. It's not, again, like I said, it's not just about physical activity. For me, clarity of thoughts. I generally became better in memory, better in my attitude towards life, like, because you tend to work 8 to 10 hours a day, right? And just simple things like every 1 hour I stand up and I 10-15 minutes. Those things never came to me. Now by default I just do it. I don't think about those things. So I would attribute a lot of that to my health and fitness.
one last point I'll say about this is I absolutely could not agree more, because when you have reference points of higher degrees of difficulty, everything else in your life becomes a lot easier. I actually took a boxing class in my college, and I mean, you think you know how to properly fight until you actually step inside, right? That's when
That's
you
right.
really understand what it's like. And when you go through a degree of pain in the ring, of course, or in the boxing, everything else becomes easier because your reference point's a lot higher, because you're constantly running, you're conditioning, you're actually getting in the ring. So I can absolutely understand the parallel. Everything else in your life becomes a lot easier. Everything else you're willing to be a bit more resilient with, and a key factor of understanding processes and understanding things requires resilience. Because things are complicated, difficult problems are complicated. So the more resilient you are, you can be more capable of solving those problems. So those are great points. Now, one last question for you on the personal side is, what would you say is the biggest difference between you in your 20s and you now?
I think I've taken more of a mentor leader role than a
Mhm.
hands-on individual contributor role. I think that's a big difference. When you have a team, you want to, I always believe in this: show the way, know the way, show the way, and go the way.
Mhm.
When I have younger team members in my team, I have to know what they're looking for. Then I have to show how they can make it happen. Sometimes I got to execute it myself to show them this is how it's done, right?
Mhm.
So I kind of feel that changed, that perspective changed massively from the day I started to now. The other thing that that changed, so when I was young in school, I used to do a lot of college debates, right? And I was a part of dramatics classes in college and school. That gave me a lot of social skills. When I
Mhm.
was, the social skill was more towards, hey, I need to know you, I need to get your phone number, you're a big shot in the industry. Now it's more like, hey, I want to know you because you're the next generation. You're the one
Mhm.
who's going to make this AI first transition in life,
Yeah.
in both professional and personal setting. So I want to know you. Those smart, wickedly hardworking people, I want to know them instead, right? Instead of
Yeah.
them coming to me saying, "Hey, you're a celebrity, Arvin. I want to talk to you." I'm like, "No, no, 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 no. I want to talk to you, Aryan. I want to get to
Yeah.
know you. Tell me how I can help you." So that perspective changed massively. The perspective is the same. The way you approach things changed massively.
Yeah, I love that. So I'll share a very quick perspective regarding fitness and health, and then we'll go ahead and conclude the podcast with your plans for this year, whether that's going to be professionally or personally. So the very quick perspective I want to share today is really about how can you make this process more time efficient. Now, I know you go to the gym probably 6, 7 times a week. A lot of individuals who, especially executives and entrepreneurs, don't have the same commitment or either the same capacity as you. So how can you really make that as time efficient? And I would say there's really one thing you want to look at, right? What is the actual process that drives a change when it comes to actually losing fat, building muscle, etc. So you want to identify those two things, and those with regard to weight loss, it's one thing specifically. It's a negative energy balance, and this is according to PubMed. If you burn the right amount of calories and then you consume essentially less than that, you're creating a negative energy balance, which actually allows you to basically lose weight. So how can you be time efficient with that? You have to get the right amount of movement and you have to have the right calorie intake. With regards to movement, it has to be location independent as opposed to location dependent. I mean that by saying if you can prioritize movement that can be done anytime, anywhere, as opposed to one fixed location, you're gonna be a lot more effective at actually being able to adhere to the requirements of making this transformation. So something like step count is what I personally use to lose over 70 pounds. I would absolutely advise other people to use, because you can do that while you're taking a phone call, while you're essentially traveling, and essentially can adapt to exactly where you go. So as opposed to you making time for it, you can have it adapt to your schedule. And the last thing I'll say is with regard to putting on muscle, you want to focus on gaining strength as opposed to going to the gym as many times a week. I go once or twice a week, but due to the fact that I focus on strength gains, I'm repping 75-pound dumbbells. So the idea is, can you focus on getting stronger, and can you focus on making that negative energy balance happen in a very time efficient way? That's the idea. So if that hopefully provides a different perspective, and hopefully it does. The idea is you don't have to be going to do a traditional method of going to the gym and attending that 6, 7 times a week. Rather, you can do it in a more time efficient way if you adhere to the requirements of the problem. And this is where I'm referencing my physical transformation for this as well. So hopefully it provides a different perspective. What we'll do now is go ahead and conclude the podcast with Arvin's plans for this year.
Agree. Makes sense, Aryan.
Yeah. So what are some plans for you for this year, whether that's professionally or personally?
Professionally, so I joined a new job about 2 months ago. I am now the senior vice president of a very large agentic AI implementation company, right? So professionally, my job is to make my team successful, my company successful. Part of what I'm doing is I'm doing a lot of conferences, events, and letting people know how to think about agents, how to think about co-pilots, and all of the stuff we're building. Personally, one of my goals is actually my wife is an entrepreneur. She runs a platform called Inspire You, and she's built a learning and upskilling platform, which is really doing amazingly well. I think especially with younger generation who need mentors, who need human mentors. We are focused on upskilling the next generation, whether it's AI talent or non-AI talent. It doesn't matter to us. Everybody needs to learn AI. I don't think there's any choice. Anybody who wants to be successful in profession has to use AI one way or the other. So personally, one of my goals is to help her spread the message and to make her successful as well. And of course, I have 2 boys, so life is busy around their schedule. One of the things we diligently do is we take a vacation once every 3 months on purpose, shut everything down, and just go enjoy, live life a little, do some shark diving. So that's
Excellent.
my goal.
Is LinkedIn the best place to reach you or to learn more about you?
Yeah, anybody who wants to connect with me, typically reach out to me in LinkedIn. Anybody who wants to listen to how I speak, what I speak about, especially in data and AI, I have a podcast. It's called Smarketech Shortcast. It's in YouTube, so feel free to follow me and start asking questions.
Make sure to check those 2 out. Thank you for joining me, Arvin. This was Aryan Mohindra and Arvin Murali. Thank you for listening.